It started like any other night. I was on the couch, the television humming in the background, a half-finished beer resting on the table beside me. Nothing special, just another quiet evening at home. She was by the front door, slipping in her coat, adjusting her hair in a mirror like she always did before going out. "I will not be too late," she said, her voice light. Too light. She leaned in, pressing a quick kiss to my cheek, her perfume lingering in the air just a little too long. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, sharper than usual, like something had just snapped. I sat there for a moment, staring at the screen, but not really watching. Something was wrong. I cannot explain it, but the feeling settled deep in my chest, gnawing at me. She had been going out more often lately. At first, it was small things. A dinner here, a girls' night there. Nothing that seemed out of place. But then, it became a habit. Something that no longer needed an excuse. And then, there were the other things. The way she was suddenly so careful with her phone. The way she seemed distracted even when she was home. The way she had started dressing just a little too nicely for a casual meetup. I had noticed. Of course, I had noticed. But I had told myself not to make a big deal out of it. Because that was what trust was, right? Giving someone the benefit of the doubt. Except now, that same trust was the thing eating at me. Before I even realized what I was doing, I grabbed my keys. I did not plan to follow her. Not really. But the next thing I knew, I was sliding into my truck, gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. It was just a drive, I told myself. Just a way to calm my mind. Her car was easy to spot, even in the evening traffic. I kept my distance, watching as she took one turn, then another. With each passing street, my pulse grew heavier. Then she stopped. I expected a busy bar, maybe a trendy restaurant, somewhere loud, somewhere she could actually be meeting friends. But that was not where she went. Instead, she pulled into a small, dimly lit cafe tucked away on a quiet street. A place designed for hushed conversations and lingering looks. The kind of place where people went when they did not want to be seen. I parked across the road, killing the engine, my fingers still wrapped around the wheel. Inside, through the front window, I saw her. She was leaning in, her expression soft, her lips curved into a smile. Not the polite kind, not the distant, obligatory kind. No, this was the kind of smile that meant something. And then I saw him, the man sitting across from her. He was not a stranger. I had seen him before. His hand rested near hers, fingers tapping absently against the table. A lazy, comfortable gesture. Too comfortable. The way they sat, the way she looked at him. It was like a punch to the gut. A hard, undeniable truth staring me in the face. Something inside me snapped. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, my grip on the steering wheel tightening until my knuckles turned white. My breathing was too steady, like my body was bracing itself before the storm. She was not meeting friends. She had not been meeting friends for a long time. I could have stormed inside, could have made a scene, could have dragged her out of that cafe and let her see just how deep this betrayal had cut. But I did not. Instead, I watched, letting the fire inside me grow. She had no idea I was here. No idea I had seen everything. No idea that everything she had built, everything she thought was safe, was about to come crashing down. And I was going to be the one to bring it all down. I sat in my truck across the street, engine off, the only sound my own breathing, slow, controlled, but boiling beneath the surface. The cafe's soft lighting framed them in the window like a portrait. A moment frozen in time. A moment I could not unsee. I was gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. But I did not loosen my hold. My jaw clenched so hard, I could feel the pressure in my temples. It was anger, pure and simple. But underneath it, something worse. Hatred. Not just for the man sitting across from her, though there was plenty of that. It was not just that he was with my wife. It was the way he looked at her, casual, confident, like he had a right. The way his hand inched closer to hers on the table. How he leaned in slightly, like they were the only two people in the world. But worse than him, worse than anything, was her. The way she smiled. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, laughing at whatever nonsense he was whispering. The way she let him reach for her hand. Did not pull away. Did not flinch. She had no idea I was here. No idea she was being watched. No idea that I was not the man she thought I was anymore. I sat there for what felt like hours, but could not have been more than a few minutes. My mind spinning. Should I go in there right now? Drag her out by the wrist? Make a scene? Let everyone see what a liar she was? Or should I wait until she got home? Act like nothing was wrong. Let her walk right into the trap of her own making. I wanted to hear her lie. I wanted to hear her excuses, to watch her squirm, to see just how far she would go to protect the fantasy she had built for herself. So I sat, and I watched. Every touch, every glance, every detail burned itself into my mind like a brand. And then, finally, they stood up. She smoothed out her dress, adjusting the strap of her purse, smiling up at him. He reached out, fingers grazing her wrist for just a second too long before he turned toward the door. I sank lower in my seat, my hands tightening and loosening, my chest feeling like something was clawing its way out from the inside. She walked out first, her eyes sweeping the street for just a second. But she was not looking for me. She was not looking for anything. She was just making sure the coast was clear. Then, she turned toward her car, and he followed, walking with that same careless confidence, like he had nothing to hide, like he was not doing anything wrong. And maybe, in his mind, he wasn't. Maybe she had told him something else. Maybe she had made me the bad guy. The thought sent another wave of rage through me, a slow, simmering kind of anger that settled into my bones. I wanted to follow him. I wanted to know who he was, where he lived, if he had a wife of his own waiting at home, clueless. But no, not yet. I stayed put, my eyes locked on her as she got in her car, started the engine, and pulled away. And then, I did the same. I followed at a distance, keeping my truck just far enough behind so she would not notice. She drove home like nothing had happened, like she had just spent the evening chatting with friends, like she had not just sat across from another man, leaning in, smiling like he was the only thing in the world that mattered, like she had not betrayed me. I pulled in the driveway a few minutes after she did. By the time I walked inside, she was already in the kitchen, her heels kicked off, humming to herself as she poured a glass of water. She did not look guilty. She did not look like a woman who had just spent the night committing the kind of betrayal that could not be undone. She looked normal, like my wife. And that, asterisk more than anything, asterisk made me want to tear this whole illusion apart. But not yet. Not until I could watch her lie to my face. I stood in the doorway, just watching. She was at the kitchen counter, her back turned to me, pouring a glass of water like nothing was wrong. Like she had not just sat across from another man, laughing at his jokes, letting him touch her hand. Like she was not a liar. She looked so damn normal. That was what got to me. She was not acting nervous. She was not sneaking around. No guilty glances over her shoulder. No hesitation. It was just another night to her. Like this was routine. That thought made something inside me snap. If I had not followed her, if I had not seen it with my own eyes, she would have walked into this house, kissed me on the cheek, and curled up next to me on the couch like nothing had happened. Like I was nothing. I took a step forward, slow and deliberate, my boots heavy against the floor. She turned, her eyes widening for just a split second before she masked it with a smile. "Hey, I did not hear you come in." She took a sip of her water, completely at ease, like she had no idea I was standing there, picturing all the ways I could make her regret every second of this night. I forced myself to stay calm, not because I was not furious. I was more than furious, but because I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear the words come out of her mouth. I wanted her to lie to me, to pretend she was still the woman I had married, to see just how deep she would dig her own grave. I walked past her, slow and measured, letting the tension sit in the air. I could feel her watching me, maybe sensing something was off, but not enough to panic. "Good night," I asked, keeping my voice even. She nodded, setting the glass on the counter. Yeah, it was nice. Just a couple of us catching up, nothing too exciting. I stared at her. Nothing too exciting. It took everything in me not to laugh, not to slam my fist on the counter, not to demand to know how she could look me in the eye and say that. Instead, I just nodded. "That is good." She moved past me, stretching her arms above her head like she was winding down for the night. "Did you eat dinner?" she asked. "I grabbed something on the way home, but I could have picked something up for you." So casual, so normal. I wanted to wipe that false sense of comfort right off her face. But not yet. I ate, I muttered. She yawned, heading toward the bedroom. I'm going to take a shower. I smell like a bar. A bar. So that was her story. I wondered how much it was rehearsed. Had she already run through it in her head before she even got home? Had she planned it the second she walked out of that cafe, before she even got behind the wheel? And that was when it hit me. She was not nervous, because this was not her first time lying to me. This was not some spur-of-the-moment mistake, not some impulsive choice she had made in a moment of weakness. No, this was practiced, refined, perfected, because she had been doing this for a while. Maybe not with this man. Maybe there had been others before him. Maybe not. But one thing was clear. This was not guilt. This was not hesitation. This was experience. And that realization changed something inside me. Turned my fury into something else. Something darker. Something sharper. I waited until I heard the shower turn on. Until I knew she was behind that door, lost in the steam, thinking she was safe. Her purse was on the table. Her phone was sticking out, the screen glowing briefly as a message came through. I did not hesitate. I grabbed it. She had a passcode, of course, but she was not careful. I had seen her enter it 100 times, her fingers moving out of habit, and I had a good memory. I entered the numbers, and the screen unlocked. And just like that, the floodgates opened. Messages, calls, photos, all of it right there. Like she had not even considered that I might ever look. Like she thought I was too trusting, too blind, too stupid. I scrolled, my hands gripping the phone, so tight my knuckles ached. I had expected to see a name I did not recognize. Some random guy, some stranger. But the name on the screen stopped me cold. Because I knew it. This was not just some man. This was not just some stranger. This was someone close. Someone we knew. Someone I never would have suspected. And that changed everything. The second I saw the name, my stomach dropped. Not in sadness. Not in shock. I was not that naive anymore. No. What I felt was something colder. Something heavier. Like a weight settling deep in my gut, pressing down on every nerve, making my hands clench around her phone so hard I thought I might crush it. Because this was not just some man. This was someone who had sat in our home, laughed at our table, drank with me, talked with me, someone I had trusted. And now, he was sleeping with my wife. The messages were not vague. They were not careful. They were not the kind of texts you could excuse away with a well-practiced lie. No, they were bold, shameless. Last night was perfect. I could still feel you. He does not suspect a thing, does he? I hate sneaking around. I wish we could just be together. I kept scrolling, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to stop, wanted to put the phone down before I saw something that would push me past the point of no return. But I could not, because I was already there. And then there it was, the final nail in the coffin. A photo. I did not even need to open it fully. The preview was enough. Her, lying in bed, the sheets barely covering her. Her hair a mess. Her lips curved in a knowing little smirk. Not our bed, not our sheets. I exhaled slow and deep, forcing down the burning in my chest. I was not stupid. I knew what kind of messages men and women sent each other when they were in the middle of an affair. But knowing it in theory and seeing it with my own eyes were two entirely different things. My wife. I let the phone fall back onto the table, my hands gripping the edge so tight my fingers ached. I was not sure how long I stood there, staring at nothing, breathing through the kind of rage that most men only ever feel once in their lives. The water was still running in the bathroom. She was still in the shower, completely unaware that I had just uncovered everything. Every dirty little secret she thought she had hidden. And now, I had two choices. I could storm in there right now, rip back the shower curtain, throw her phone in her face, watch the color drain from her lying, cheating skin. Or I could wait, let her dig herself in deeper, let her tell me more lies, let her think she was still in control, that she still had the upper hand, that she was still the clever one in this game she had been playing behind my back. I took another breath, rolled my shoulders, cracked my neck. Yeah, I would wait. Let her come to me. Let her think everything was fine. And then, I would burn her world to the ground. The sound of running water cut off. A few seconds later, I heard the rustling of a towel, the faint squeak of her feet against the bathroom floor. I turned away from the phone, made my way to the couch, grabbed the remote, like nothing had happened. The screen flickered on just as she walked out. Hair damp, skin flushed from the heat of the shower. Wearing one of my t-shirts. The same way she always did when she was trying to be cute. The sight of her made my skin crawl. She smiled when she saw me. "You are still up?" I shrugged, my eyes still on the television. Could not sleep. She walked over, running a hand through her wet hair, then sat beside me, curling up the way she always did. "I missed you tonight," she said, resting her head against my shoulder. I had to force myself to stay still, to not shove her off me, to not grab her by the chin and make her look me in the eye and tell me exactly who she had really been with tonight. Instead, I let out a low hum. "Yeah." She nodded against me, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on my arm. "MHM. It is weird, you know? Spending time with the girls is nice and all, but I always feel like I just want to come home to you." I nearly laughed. Nearly. I turned my head slightly, looking down at her. "That's so." She met my gaze. Her eyes were soft, warm, the way they had always been, the way they had been when I thought I knew who she really was. And in that moment, I realized something. She was good at this. The lying, the pretending, the effortless way she could look me in the eye and say exactly what she knew I wanted to hear, knowing damn well she had been wrapped up in another man's arms just hours ago. How many times had she done this before? How many nights had she come home from his bed to lay in mine? I clenched my jaw, looked away, pretending to focus on the television. She let out a soft sigh, sitting up, stretching. "I think I'm going to head to bed. Are you coming?" I shook my head. "Not yet. Going to finish this first." She hesitated, just a beat too long. Then she forced a smile. "All right. Do not stay up too late." She stood, walked toward our bedroom, leaving a trail of damp footprints on the floor. I did not move. Not until I heard the sound of her settling into bed, the soft creak of the mattress as she shifted under the covers. Then I turned the television off, sat in the dark, and thought about what I was going to do next. Because now it was not just about her. Now there was someone else. Someone who thought he had taken something from me. Someone who thought he had gotten away with it. Someone who was about to learn exactly what kind of man I really was. I sat in the dark long after she had gone to bed. The house was silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant ticking of the clock on the wall. Outside, a car passed down the street, its headlights flashing briefly against the curtains before disappearing. I was still gripping the remote in my hand, but I had not turned the television back on. I was not watching anything. I was thinking. I had spent years building this life with her, believing in something that had never been real. Every moment, every kiss, every whispered, "I love you," all of it had been tainted, poisoned by whatever she had been doing behind my back. And I had been blind, but not anymore. The moment I saw his name on her phone, something inside me shifted. I was not just a husband who had been betrayed. I was not just a man who had been made a fool of. I was something else now, something worse. And the only thing that mattered was what I was going to do about it. I reached for her phone again. The glow of the screen cast sharp shadows across my face. I did not need to scroll anymore. I already knew everything I needed to know. Him. I stared at his name. My jaw tightened. This was not some random guy. This was not a mistake. This was personal. He had sat across from me at dinner, laughed at my jokes, slapped me on the back, poured drinks with me. I had trusted him. And the whole time, he had been looking at my wife like she was his to take. I exhaled slowly, set the phone down before I crushed it in my hand. I needed a plan. I finally stood, stretched out the stiffness in my back, moved like a man who was not supposed to be awake at this hour. The house felt different now, like a crime scene. I walked to the bedroom. The door was slightly open. The soft glow of the bedside lamp cast a dim light across the sheets. She was already asleep. I stopped in the doorway, watching her. She looked peaceful, too peaceful, like she had not just spent the night pretending to be something she was not, like she had not come home to me after being with him. Something about that made my skin crawl. I wanted to wake her up. I wanted to rip the blanket off of her and watch the panic settle into her face when she realized what I knew. I wanted to see her stammer, grasp for excuses, try to save herself. But not yet. I took a slow breath, pushed the anger down. I was not going to give her the satisfaction of knowing what was coming. She would wake up in the morning, stretch, yawn, smile at me like nothing was wrong. She would move through the day without a care in the world, thinking she was safe. And that was exactly what I wanted. Let her have that illusion. For now, I climbed into bed beside her. The mattress shifted slightly under my weight. She stirred for a moment, then turned toward me, her arm draped lazily across my chest. I did not move, did not touch her, did not breathe. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, my mind running through every possible way I could tear her world apart. Morning comes with smiles and lies. The next morning, I woke up before she did. I never used to, but today, I needed to see it. I needed to see how she would lie to me. I nodded, playing along. Yeah, maybe I will. She stretched, then slid out of bed. I'm going to hop in the shower. I watched as she disappeared into the bathroom, humming to herself, moving through the morning like nothing had changed, like she had not just shattered our life into a million pieces. I sat up slowly, my fingers pressing against my temples as I let out a deep breath. I could end this right now. Walk into that bathroom, throw her phone at her, demand the truth. But I did not want the truth. I already had it. What I wanted was revenge, and I was going to get it. Step 1. Set the trap. I had to play it smart. If I acted too soon, she would try to cover her tracks. She would cry. She would apologize. She would spin whatever story she thought might keep her safe. But I did not want an apology. I wanted justice. So I did something I had never done before. I picked up my phone and sent her a message. Hey babe, thinking we should do something special tonight. Just us. What do you think? A test. She would say yes, of course, because that is what a good wife would do. But I knew. She already had plans. Plans she would have to change now. I sent the message and waited. Less than a minute later, her phone, still on the nightstand, buzzed with an incoming text. I glanced at the screen. It was him. And just like that, I had her trapped. She was going to have to choose. And no matter which choice she made, I was going to make sure she lost everything. I sat there, phone in my hand, watching. Her phone buzzed again on the nightstand. Another message from him. I did not touch it this time. Did not need to. I already knew what it would say. Something simple. Something careful. Maybe, cannot wait to see you tonight. Same place. Miss you already. The kind of messages men send when they think they have one. I could hear the water running in the shower. She was in there right now, washing away the smell of him, scrubbing her skin clean, like it would somehow erase the betrayal she carried underneath it. I leaned back, exhaling slowly, feeling the weight of everything settle onto my chest. She had a choice to make now. I had sent her my text before she saw his, which meant that when she stepped out of that shower, wrapped in a towel, running her fingers through her wet hair, she would see my message first. Hey babe, thinking we should do something special tonight. Just us. What do you think? A simple question. One that any good wife would say yes to without hesitation. Except she was not a good wife. She was a liar, a cheater, and now I was going to see exactly how she handled it. Watching her decide, the water stopped. I heard her moving around, opening drawers, getting dressed. A few minutes later, she walked out, toweling off her hair, her phone in one hand. I did not move, did not look at her, just sat there, eyes on the TV, pretending to be caught up in the morning news, like I was not waiting for the moment her world started to crumble. She did not check her phone right away. She was comfortable. That is what got me the most. She had gotten away with it for so long that she was not even nervous. She moved around the room like a woman who had nothing to hide, humming softly, pulling on a shirt. Then finally, she picked up her phone. I kept my gaze locked on the screen, watching her out of the corner of my eye. She swiped it open, saw my message first, and paused. It was subtle, but I caught it. That half-second hesitation where she realized she now had a problem. Then she kept scrolling, saw his message next. Another pause, longer this time. She stood there, completely still, phone in her hands, staring at whatever he had sent her. I could almost hear her thoughts. What do I do? How do I answer? How do I fix this? I almost smiled, because for the first time since this all began, she felt even an ounce of what I had felt last night. I did not say anything. I just waited for her next move. She placed her phone gently on the nightstand, walked toward the closet, then in the most casual voice possible. She said, I was actually thinking of going out with the girls again tonight. I felt something sharp twist in my gut, but I did not let it show. Instead, I finally turned to her, raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah. She nodded, pulling a sweater off a hanger. Yeah, just a little dinner. You do not mind, do you? A test. She was watching me now, studying me, trying to gauge my reaction, trying to see if I had any reason to doubt her, if I had seen anything, if I knew. I played it cool, shrugged, pretended I did not care. Nah, that is fine. I will just order in or something. A flicker of relief crossed her face. So fast most men would have missed it. But I did not. I noticed everything now. I had learned. She turned back to her phone, picked it up again. Then, actually, maybe I will just stay home tonight. We could do something together, like you said. And there it was. She had made her choice. She was going to cancel on him. I wondered how she would word it. Would she make up an excuse? Tell him she was not feeling well? Say something came up? I wanted to see it. I wanted to see her type the message. See the exact words she chose when she threw him aside for me. I stood up, stretched. I'm going to grab some coffee. She smiled at me. Okay, babe. Babe. The same word she probably used for him. I walked out of the bedroom, headed toward the kitchen. But I did not go straight to the coffee maker. I stopped, just outside the door, just out of her sight. And then, I heard it. The soft sound of her phone tapping as she typed. A few seconds passed. Then, the whoosh of a sent message. I exhaled. Slow. Deep. She had lied to him now, too. Good. That was step one. Step two. Setting the fire. I waited a few minutes. Then I walked back in, coffee cup in hand, acting like I had not just heard her cover her tracks. She was sitting on the bed, phone in hand, her face neutral, fingers moving. Maybe she was even messaging him again, reassuring him, making promises for later. I would find out soon enough. I sat down beside her, took a slow sip. She glanced up at me, smiling, like she was not the world's best liar. So, what are we doing tonight? I smiled back, a real smile, one she did not recognize. Something special, I said. She grinned. Oh, like what? I shrugged. It is a surprise. And it was. Because tonight, everything she thought she knew about me, about us, about the life she had been living, was about to change. The final confirmation. I needed one more thing before the night could begin. Proof. Not for me. I already knew what kind of woman I had married. But I wanted something tangible, something undeniable. So while she was in the shower, I did something I had never done before. I picked up her phone, unlocked it, and this time, I did not just skim through her messages. I went deep. It did not take long to find exactly what I was looking for. Texts. Hundreds of them. Late-night conversations. Hidden inside the message thread with his name at the top. Plans made in secret. Whisper promises she had no intention of keeping. And pictures. Not just of her. Of him. I stared at his face. The smug, lazy grin. The way he looked at my wife like she belonged to him. Like I was nothing. I took screenshots of everything. Every text. Every picture. Every disgusting little secret they thought they had hidden. Then I sent them to myself. The evidence was mine now. And tonight, I would use it. The setup. By the time she stepped out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, hair damp, smelling like lavender. I was already in the kitchen, pretending to be busy. She walked up behind me, draped her arms around my waist, pressed a kiss to my shoulder. What is the plan? She murmured. I turned, gave her that same easy smile I had mastered over the past 24 hours. You will see. She grinned, eyes shining like she really believed this was some kind of romantic surprise. If only she knew. I had already made the reservations. A small, cozy restaurant, tucked away from the main streets. The kind of place meant for intimate moments. I had picked it on purpose, because I wanted her to feel safe. I wanted her to relax. I wanted her to think this was just another night. Another game she was playing. Another lie she was getting away with. And then, when she least expected it, I was going to shatter everything.